anyway, so I forgot to make show and share things, so there's some blank forms that have hats for kids on the back. So if anybody has some show and share, they can grab one off of Tony's table and just, or any kind of table. I will, the pictures that Lee takes, she will, yeah, if you've got show and share at the break, or after you show it, see Lee in the back, and she'll take a pretty picture, and then she'll send that out to the people that have something that they share, so that you can have it on your Ravelry page, or just have that page. But those will be used in the newsletter and the website. No, I don't know if they're on the website. Anyway, they'll be on Instagram, and they'll be on different things. If you choose not to have it taken, that's fine too. But she'll be the one taking the pictures. And all I need is the name of the pattern and your Ravelry name. And I will do a bundle. So at the, I don't know how to hold this because I don't know. I have to pass it on to somebody else. So the Ravelry bundle has the picture, you know, when somebody shows something, you go home and it's like, I wish I knew what that was, I like that. You can go on Ravelry in the next day or two, and there'll be a bundle of the patterns that were used for the project. So that's kind of what the show and share is used for. It helps me if I can't quite find the picture. I'll go to your Ravelry page and then I'll find it that way. A little bit technical. So, I want to welcome everybody again, and I wanted to start with a quote that I saw on one of the social media things. It's a quote by Luke Van Donkersgoed. I'm sure I don't have that pronounced right. But as I read this, I want you to think the word yarn instead of books. Okay. Think not of the books you've bought as to-be-read pile. Instead, think of your bookcase as a wine cellar. You collect books to be read at night, to be read at the right time, the right place, and the right mood. So I thought, well, that sounds very memorable. And actually, Eileen McKelvey was the one who posted that on Facebook, so that's where I took that. I wanted to remind everybody that the guild election will be in March, and we have 2 open positions. The one is recording secretary, which Alice Kemner has agreed to run for that position. And the second one that we need to fill is admin VP. And if you or a friend want to participate in that, and some of these really don't have to be by someone that is in town. I mean, if you're an outside, if you're one of the members that are out, you know, that don't attend in person, there are some things that can be done that could be done remotely. But anyway, I would like it if 1 or 2 people, or, you know, talk your friend into maybe helping out with admin VP. We've got hospitality in place that's under that. We've got membership in place that's under that. The 2 luncheons have already been reserved. And then when it comes time to do those events, there's always plenty of people that volunteer to help. So it might look intimidating, but go on the website and, well, actually, I think I put it in the newsletter, what the positions entail. But if you have any questions, the 2 people that are doing the admin VP, Eileen's not here today, but Joni is the other person. So Joni Weisberg. So if you're kind of interested, you know, we need help. You know, our board can't, you know, the guild can't be supported without volunteers for those positions. So any takers before you? Please consider doing it. Okay.
Or they can just talk to any board member.
Yeah, talk to any board member. I mean, you know, whatever group. And we meet by Zoom, so you don't have to worry about trying to get together any place. We meet, right now we're meeting on Monday nights or Tuesday nights at 6 o'clock on Zoom, so that should work. The only member news that I have, get well wishes go to Diane Wolf, who is undergoing treatment for chronic leukemia, but she reports the prognosis is good, but there's some rough days ahead. So we keep Diane in our thoughts. Membership. Beth has any of the name tags or new name membership cards.
Yeah, the new name tags have arrived. Anybody that anybody that I said they're not here yet, they're here.
Come and see. So see Beth at the break, and she can provide you those, and I'll save her taking back a bag of badges. And And you can always join, you can pay dues at this location, so if you want to join, we don't take credit cards, but if you have a check, or if you want to pay PayPal, you can join that way too, or renew. And on the back table where Pam is standing, she's got some things that are some free things that Chris brought in. But there are also some Guild Library books that we brought in that are related to the program today. We've got a Elizabeth Zimmerman Baby Surprise Sweater DVD on the table that you can borrow. There's a Debbie Bliss book. There's a couple of Barbara Walker books. So there's a piece of paper on the top of those. If you take any of the library books, please sign those out. And if there's anything else on the list that you see that you might like, just put your name next to the blank space next to the book, and I'll bring those in the next meeting.
There's a sign up.
There's a sign up. Or you can just call Joan, call me, and I'll be happy to bring them to the next meeting. I don't have any knit-in updates unless somebody else has a new knit-in that needs added. They can just get in touch with me. And unless someone else has any other announcements, I'll go on to the business portion of the meeting. Are there any corrections to the minutes from the December 10th meeting that were printed in the January newsletter? If not, do we have a motion to accept the minutes? Judy Roach.
I second.
Second is Mary Dale Bannister. Okay, so the minutes are approved. The treasurer's report. Are there any questions on the November treasurer's report that was published in the January newsletter? If not, those will be submitted for audit. And one change that the board did make this past meeting, we noticed that there was like $100 in PayPal fees that the guild incurred. So the board voted to have the PayPal fees paid by those making purchases on the guild website, such as membership fees and name badges, that they will be responsible for those fees. So it might be, and the description will say, additional fees will apply. So it'll say $50 for membership, $10 for a name tag if you need a new one. If you're a new member, it's automatically included in your membership, but if you lose it or want another one. And this will make it a lot easier on the guild record keeping. I don't know if, you can't imagine what a confusing mess it is with the fees and the charges for that. So this will keep it easier and our dues that we received easier to keep track of. Any questions on that? Okay, we're going to go on to other reports. So we're going to start with Joni, our administrative VP.
Hi everybody, I'm Joni Weisberg, Co-Administrative VP. Want to welcome some new members. We had a lot of people join since the last meeting. Michaela Boyer, Diane Hutchings, Andy, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right, and I apologize in advance if I don't. Muralid Heron.
That's really good.
Oh.
It took you 3 years.
How is it pronounced?
Muralidhar.
Sure. Easy for you to say. Angela Baker, Marnie Boyd, Marjorie Dellis, Joe Gardner, and Whitney Kaibel?
Kybel like Kaiser extraordinary.
Okay, we welcome you all. And as Joan said, anybody who wants to take over for admin VPs, be happy to talk to you about it. The only work that is really involved is soliciting prizes for the Founders Day luncheon. And that just, involves emailing different vendors and soliciting yarn or patterns or whatever. But anyway, see me if you're interested. And that's all I got. Yes.
Mary?
You can have it.
I just wanted to bring up one thing about the communications. We're always looking for articles for the newsletter, and the deadline is January 27th for the February newsletter. So if you've got any experience with a trip, Rhinebeck, or a retreat, or a knit-along, or experience, good experience, fun experience with the yarn shops. We got a knit-along going at the Seven Sisters. That we may have to write something about that when we get a little bit farther into it. But anyway, please consider a book review, anything. We need your support on that too. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate, just something. Thank you.
And it doesn't even have to be for like this month, so if you're thinking about something, but you don't have it written up by that deadline, there's another newsletter next month. So, and we gotta fill them all up, so that's the way it goes. I don't have a lot of things to talk about today, don't wanna take up a lot of time, but if anybody is interested, there are, if you've ever gone to the county public library, you see they have displays for various things up. There are more places than just the public library that have those. If somebody would like to exercise their artistic ability in putting together something like that, we can use it in more than one place. So we can put it in one place, and when it's done there, we can make a few phone calls and arrange even at multiple libraries, because just because it's at one library doesn't mean it can't be at another library. And this is a way that people can kind of see that we exist and see what kind of awesome things we knit. So if anybody is interested in doing something like that, that would be great. If you can't catch up with me today in the meeting, you can always send me an email, you know where I live, so. Anyway, any questions for anybody right now?
Okay. Education is next.
Oh, sorry, it's community service, but they can. Sorry. May, I've got out of line. It's Pam. We want to do the special ways.
Well, I'm Pam Riley, in the community service or whatever I'm doing. The adult and kid hat whisperer said that all of the hats that we donated in 2022 have been distributed. Why are you clapping? That means we don't have any. That's what we're here for. We have a nice, very full table, overflowing actually, and that has a bunch of hats and things on it. And so if you know of an organization that needs hats, maybe during the next few weeks, because it's going to get really cold, please let Joan or me know, okay? Because we do have hats to distribute. Sometimes we have non-hat various activities, and it's like, but then we run short of hats in December or October, and we kind of scramble. So hats is kind of our focus. Everybody, charity hats generally for adults and children. That's the size. Let's see. One of the things, if you do use wool that would felt, please mark it, because those hats will be used, they will be distributed to a different spot. We kind of prefer acrylic, easy care. You throw it in the wash machine and dryer, and it comes out pretty much the same size as it went in. So there's washable wool, there's wool blends, great. You probably don't need to mark them if you can wash them, usually like in the wash machine. But if it's a wool, and I'm working on a wool hat right now in some discarded neuro. Yeah, it's turning out really nice, but I need to mark that because that hat will go to a different location. Okay, and that's everything that I think I have.
Okay, thank you, Pam.
I'm Mae Webster. I'm co-vice president of education with Susan Roshbach. Susan's going to present a slideshow on different sweater constructions. This over here is sweaters that people have brought in to show you how there are different ways to make them. if you'd like to come look at them between the, after the business before the program. Then if you have questions, we can answer those at the end of the program. On the back table are the library books. Those are for you to peruse, and if you would like to borrow them, they're there for you to borrow. The ones up here are personal books of Susan and I. They are not for taking home and using. Next month we will start the knit-along of sweaters. We're going to go with the baby sweater, and up over here we have the 3 patterns that we're suggesting. If we have 10 people and they all have a different pattern, it's going to be hard for us to help you. We have chosen 3 patterns that are very, very similar, and we think that you could do these as easy sweaters. If you wish to participate with this, the information on the patterns will be in the newsletter and on the website. You can find the patterns on Ravelry and print it off or put it on your iPad or tablet and bring it with you along with the yarn and needles that you need. So I will be up here with those if you have any questions, so you can look at them and make a choice.
So any of those patterns on the back page is what you want?
Those are the 3 we've chosen, yes. Okay, I think that's all. If you want to check, next month. Next month we would like to have mini classes. That means we're looking to you for some help. Our first choices were intarsia and stranded knitting as 2 of the classes. We have other ideas, but we'd like some from you. I was thinking short rows, cables, different increases. Is there anything else that you would like to learn in a small class?
Socks.
Pardon?
Socks.
Socks?
Ooh.
That's not a mini class.
class.
We will put that on KL.
Heels.
Heels is short rows. And there are more varieties of short rows. Any other suggestions?
Mittens.
Mittens, again, that's a more of a knit-along.
Stretchy cast-ons and all.
Yeah.
Okay.
German twist.
Probably the best way to do that would be one that we just show you how to do several of them and give you references to YouTube. That would be easier. The classes will be about 10 people. Of course, if we look around today, if we divide you into 4, it's going to be more than 10 people. The other thing we'll need is somebody to teach these. I'd like one person to step up to cover each of these, and then we will find 1 or 2 other people who also know how to do it and can sit in with you and correct the people around them. So you don't have to go around to 10 or 12 people and correct each one of them. If you have any ability with any of these that you would like to sit in on the class and help out the teacher, we'd like to know that. So we're going to be looking around. Anybody who's wearing something with intarsia or stranded, you're going to get Hi, we're not through yet. I have a question I cannot hear.
How many minutes?
Up to 45. That's the length of our program. Any other questions? If not, I think it's time for show and share.
Nope. Oh, don't forget the prizes.
Drum roll.
Hello, everybody. Today we have 67 people. We've got
Any guess?
no guess.
Oh, no, new members.
We turned them into new members.
Oh, great.
I always thought the people that like dressed their dogs were kind of weird. And then I got a little jogging suit for my terrier. And he's so cute. I'm buying him more clothes. He's not knit worthy, but he's shop worthy.
Oh, poor dog isn't knit worthy.
Oh, but he's so cute in his little jogging suit. Okay, there I have 4 prizes. And let's see, Kathy Kelsey?
Yeah.
Have you won in the past 2022?
No,
Okay, come on up.
she hasn't been here for a while.
This is a nice prize donated by Seven Sisters. I don't know what it is, but I'm sure it's nice.
It's just to make sure I come back next month.
Yes, yes. You're welcome. Sarah Heffernan.
I won last time.
Okay, pick a number.
3.
All right. Sarah Feiberger.
I won 2 times ago.
Oh my goodness. I can
lottery
pick a number.
17.
All right. Wendy Shaw? Okay. Thank you. You're welcome.
List and area of books that Amber.
Tracy Brown.
Yeah, I don't know if it's on the website or not.
Tracy Brown.
Okay, so I'll make a list of what I have, what I was moving over to share with members. And submit that. Well, maybe we should look at it.
Joe Gardner.
Because what I have to do in my library,
Okay. That's it for me. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Maybe some prizes, Carolyn. The candy will be stale. Yeah, Carol brought me a couple. I did not eat the candy. She gave me some things. But I was supposed to give you for extra prizes. I'll bring it next week. We're going to go on to show and share now. So again, I've got blank, oh, I'm sorry. Susan wants to talk about the membership form real quick. I don't have it written down.
So I'm one of the co-education VPs with May, but I also am the webmaster, so I do the website. And so we are streamlining some things, and we're eventually going to be moving over to a different hosting service, so I've been working on that. But part of what we're doing is streamlining the membership application. So if you renew, if you're a new member, it looks, you don't know what you're doing, you're just filling it out, so you're just fine. But if you are renewing, we've changed it so that all we're requiring really is your name and your email address. That's it. And so after that, you'll see that then we have the social media opt-out that we've talked about the last couple of months. So if you want to opt out from the social media activities, you can do that, or the postings and stuff. And then at the very bottom for optional, that's where your address and phone number and Ravelry are. And we've decided, like, if you provide it, it will be in the directory. If you leave it out, then it won't. What we had on the previous application was include me in the online, but not the printed, and don't put my email, but put my phone. We're like, no, we're not doing that anymore. It's getting very complicated to kind of manage all of that. So if you are renewing and you leave off your address, you won't be in the directory. We will take you out of that. So I just wanted to make sure that that was clear, that if you don't put it on the form, it's not going in the directory. So if you're renewing and you want to stay in the directory, make sure you fill it out. But if you leave it off, we're taking your email address and not email, sorry, your address and your phone number and your Ravelry off of our information. Does that make sense to everybody? So trying to make it a little bit easier to manage for Beth too, because it's a lot of content. So if you guys have any questions about that, let me know. Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to make a change to your profile, how can you do that?
You can just email Beth.
Okay.
If you go on the website, there's the contact page has all of the board members' names and then links. They'll say like membership at whatever,
Right.
and you can just send an email and she can do that. So, all right, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, I think now we're ready for show and share. So come on up. I know there's lots of people here wanting to show off their pretty things. If you need a piece of paper, I got it here.
Oh, just a blanket. Thank you. It just buckled on, so it's a blanket. Go first, then go back.
Hi. My name is Lynette. I wanted to show you my Sylvan Tales hat and fingerless mitts by Julia Deck. And then I'm also wearing my Corbus sweater by Natasha Hornstein, made out of wool. So is the brioche made out of wool too. But it's top down with no seams, and that's what I like. I don't want any seams. I do seams, but I don't want to do them.
So I was sitting in the row in front of Sandra, and she had on her Festival of Stitches, which I also brought to show on the same day. So it's called Festival of Stitches. Hers has, if you look, she made the nooks. I don't make them. I can't make them. Mine are ugly. Hers are gorgeous. If you want to see it, but this is what it looks like all spread out. So you start in the middle and you work a side, I think up to here, is that right? Then you work the other side all the way to the end, and then you come back and you finish it. But it's kind of a mirror, if you can see.
Yeah, it's mirrored with
It's mirrored colors. So mine is all alpaca, and what did you make yours?
Malintosh.
Malintosh.
And it was dyed for, oh, my mind's going blank, the
The pattern?
loops in Tulsa. They had, I don't know if it had a knit along, but they dyed this yarn special to make it easy.
If you look at the pattern, this is the
Yeah.
color that the designer made it out of, is her colors, so, which are gorgeous. So, yeah.
This is gorgeous. And I changed a few of my stitches. I'm looking here, this, I don't think I had a problem with it, and I thought, I'm not gonna fight with this, so I looked for other stitches. And I was happy with it. I thought, there's no police checking this.
No one will ever know.
Right.
Anyway, that was kind of funny. Really pretty. Beautiful. And then I just made a couple things with no patterns. I found this yarn. Oh, no. I'll talk louder. I found this yarn, it's called Unique, and I just made a linen stitch. So if you can see it, the linen stitch, since it has a slip stitch, picks up the color in between the other colors, which I kind of liked. So I just cast on and then knit till I ran out of yarn. And then I made a short cowl out of a daisy stitch, which I like daisy stitch too. It makes the flowers. You can't see them, but it makes little flowers in there. So pretty cute. Also not a pattern. I just made it. Just winged it.
Nice job.
Okay, I'm embarrassed, this does have seams. But it's Kim Hargraves, it's called Agnes. And the pattern had like little dots on it, and I just wanted it plain, so I just did it simple. And it was supposed to be cotton, but I wanted it wool. So I went with something from Knit Picks, it's called Twill, it's a fingering weight.
Get away.
Hello. People asked me if I was cold, and I said, no, this is out of context with a t-shirt, so I put my coat on. It's Stash acrylic pattern, maroon and pink held together. And I just made the scarf until I ran out of yarn, so it's a little short, goes great with a little pin. So it was really good that really cold Friday. Thanks.
Nice job. Anybody else? If not, we'll take about a 10-minute break and then we'll start the program.
Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me back there? We're starting the program. Everybody can grab their seats, please. Thank you very much. It's so awesome to see everybody here. This is great. This is like the biggest crowd we've had in quite some time. So thanks everybody for joining today. So I'm Susan Rosbeck again. I'm one of the co-VPs of education with May, and today we're going to talk about just basic sweater construction. So I had never knit a sweater before, and it was pretty scary because you guys make beautiful sweaters and there was no way I was going to try that. But I thought, well, maybe I'll try that. And so I thought maybe a baby sweater would be a good place to start because it's smaller, it won't take a lot of time. And so where do you start, right? So we're going to talk just about basic sweater knitting today. I know there's a lot of advanced techniques like shaping and steeking and all of that scary stuff. Not going to deal with that today. We're just going to stick with the basics today. So thank you to everybody who filled out the survey that we sent out. And if I'm standing in your way, please just let me know. I want to make sure everybody can see. So here's just some of the results from the survey. So have you ever knit a sweater of any size, baby to adult or whatever? And most people have. So hopefully today won't be boring for you. If you've knit a sweater, hopefully you will learn something new today. But we had 55 people respond to the survey, so thank you. So most people have knit a sweater. Most people have knit a sweater for themselves, so 78% have knit a sweater for themselves. And then did you knit a gauge swatch? And 74% have, those 26% who never knit a gauge swatch, you are pretty brave people. Unless all you've knit are baby sweaters and then you don't need a gauge swatch. So that's really great that everybody, a lot of people have knit sweaters. And then how many swatches do you typically need when you're making your sweater? Most people can do 1 to 2 swatches and it turns out okay. Some people, about a third people need 2 to 3 swatches, and a few people needed more than 3 swatches. I would be one of those people, I'm sure. I'm not a good swatcher, so that would be really hard. So that's one. And then most people prefer top down. Oh, that's really dark compared to what's on my screen. So 71% of the respondents top down, 29% bottom up. The ones that I've practiced top down is way easier. Most people prefer to do sweaters in the round versus in pieces and seaming. That's a pretty big percentage, I guess, 21%. Seaming seems a lot of work to me if you have a lot of pieces. And then so have you knit a sweater with more than 5 pieces? 35% have knit a sweater with more than 5 pieces and put it together. That would drive me crazy. That's a lot of seaming. So, but brave souls who would do that, but most people prefer to knit in the round. How many sweaters have you knit? Most people are in the 1 to 10 sweater category. It's about half the people. I'm sorry, that's so dark. It's on there. 11 to 20 sweaters, 27%. 21 to 30, 8% of people have knit 21 to 30, and 11% of people have knit more than 30 sweaters. That's amazing. Right? That's a lot of sweaters. Wow, that's pretty impressive because that's a lot of sweaters. So what pitfalls do you have? Some of these might be hard to read, but what pitfalls do you have when you're sweater knitting? Pieces that are uneven in length. So if you're doing it in pieces, gauge changing as you get further into the project. So even if you do a swatch, your gauge might change if you've had too much coffee or not enough sleep or whatever it might be. Your gauge might change. Dye lots that are different. So making sure you have enough yarn to do the sweater that's in the same dye lot. That was an interesting one. Losing momentum on the second sleeve, kind of like that second sock. You know, you're going to have one arm sweater. Wash and dry the swatch as you would the sweater. So once you make your swatch, treat it like you would the regular garment to see what happens to it after you wash it.
Selecting yarns that will actually work for a sweater. So alpaca, maybe not. And if you have something that's really stretchy, probably not good for a sweater because it'll pull. And so making sure you have the right yarn. Just paying attention to the pattern, that might be a challenge too. Sleeves that are too tight or the wrong length. Forgetting a buttonhole. Holes in the underarms, and then too many sizes in the pattern. Makes it easy to follow the wrong direction. So if you have a pattern that offers you like 4 sizes and then you have the parentheses and you've got to pick which one you're on, highlighters help in that situation. Any other pitfalls you guys or issues you guys have with sweater knitting that maybe wasn't captured here? They're pretty standard then. Okay, so we'll get into sort of the basics. I think the first thing is, what type of sweater do you want? Do you want a pullover or do you want a cardigan? Pretty basic. If you make that choice, that's sort of the biggest question at that point. Pick which one you want, right? Then what kind of sleeve and shoulder do you want? So there's lots of different options for that. So raglan, I didn't know what that was. As I was reading sweater stuff, they're talking about raglan sleeves. I'm like, I don't know what that is. So I looked it up. And the raglan sleeve is just extends from like your armpit up. So that's what a raglan sleeve is. The saddle shoulder, May told me about this one. It's a variation on that. So it's basically the raglan, but it curves. So instead of going straight, it curves, and so it kind of goes up over your shoulder like that. We have some samples up here of the saddle shoulder. So that was new to me too. And then the drop shoulder. So your shoulder seam is kind of below your shoulder, or maybe there's no seam at all. Maybe it's just like a T, and you just seam it, and then there's your arm. And then the yoke, that one's kind of hard to see, it's red, but the neckline is kind of worked in the round. I saw somebody, and yours is like that, right? The one that you're wearing? Alice, sorry. Alice, yours is kind of...
Here's one I'm knitting that is a yoke
Yeah.
anchor sweater.
Yeah, so the yoke is kind of like knit around, and then you do the arms and stuff. So picking out what kind of arm construction you want to is another one. It's another consideration when you're making a sweater. And then set-in sleeves, that's another type of sleeve where you have your seam that goes, I guess that's what this would be, a set-in sleeve, I guess. I'm sure there are others, I only picked a few. I'm sure there are other, and we probably have other examples up here too, but those are just 5, I think it was 5 different ones. And then the overall construction, so do you want to knit it flat, totally flat, in the round, or in pieces? And yeah, that's pretty clear. I had another thought in my head, but it went away. So, and then you could also do top down, bottom up, and then sleeve to sleeve. May had told me about that one. That one looks complicated to me. I guess you maybe start here and you increase, and I didn't really understand that.
Cast on and bind off.
Is that how you do it? Cast on and bind off, okay.
It's like a big buttonhole.
Like a big buttonhole, okay. That one looked kind of complicated. So, those were there's no other way, right? Top down, bottom up, in pieces.
Well, there's another, you could go up the back and down the front.
Oh, okay, I did not
There's
get that
a couple over there that are that way, baby sweaters.
one. Okay,
Take a look at them. The pink at the other end.
this one here. This one? Okay, so you kind of go up the back
That one's actually, yeah.
and then around, so that you're kind of going like that. Okay.
And then the other one is the baby surprise.
Oh, okay. You guys can come up and take a look at
Yeah.
those. So top down, you can easily adjust the body and the length of the sleeves as you go. Makes it a little easier. The cast on, you need sort of a stretchy cast on, but firm. It's got to go over your head, but you don't want it, too stretchy. And then in the round, you're going to work it from the neckline, work it increasing rounds till you get to the underarms, and then you separate. We'll get into more detail. I probably will skip this slide and go into the actual example. It makes more sense than just reading it. But you're going to work the body and the sleeve separately, and then you have the body. Flat, you're going to work it back and forth, and then again, you kind of work everything separately. So it'll make more sense when I get to the actual example. That was a really bad slide. From the bottom up, I have not tried a bottom-up sweater. The two that I did were top-down. So it looks to me like you knit the arms completely separately and then attach
The white
them.
one right here.
This one here.
This is in progress.
All right. I don't want to mess
So
it
the
up.
body and the sleeves were done separately, then joined.
Okay. So it seems to me that in the bottom-up scenario, you're doing seaming, right? Essentially. No.
Only under the,
Not okay.
only under the armpits.
Only under the armpits.
That's the only place you have to fix it, because
Okay.
if you do the sleeves in the round, and
Okay.
that's an optional.
Okay. All right. So it's not actually sort of in pieces. So that's one way to do from the bottom up. And then just other considerations like size. Measure a sweater that you already have, and that will help you sort of judge what you need to do from a pattern perspective. If you already have a sweater that you like. And then ease, basically at how tight or how loose it fits on your body. The ease is the difference between the garment measurement and your measurement. So if the garment is smaller than your body measurement, that's negative ease, it's gonna be too tight. But if the garment measurement is bigger than your body measurement, it's positive ease and it's gonna be a little more flowy. So you can figure that out too when you're doing your patterns. And the body measurement, that's the most critical. Basically you gotta measure the biggest part of your body to make sure that your sweater fits. So whatever part of your body it is, that's the part you want. So examples, I have this book. So again, never done a sweater, so I'm reading patterns. I'm like, I don't know what they mean. Even after I had read top down, bottom up, I still didn't know what they meant. But this book, it's pretty good. It has 9 sweaters and 1 vest. And they really don't specify top down or bottom up. So when you're reading the pattern, it doesn't necessarily tell you. So most of them seem to be pieces. As I was reading through it, and then you get to the part that's for finishing, it tells you what you have to do and seam it or whatever. So that's what most of the ones in here seem to be. They seem to be in pieces. So I don't know if I'll ever try any of these because they're in pieces, and I don't think I'm gonna do that. But I did notice that as I was looking at different patterns, they don't necessarily tell you whether they're top down or bottom up. And so I had to read through several lines, and then as I read through more patterns, I could figure it out. And I could say, oh, if they say this is what it means. So as you read more patterns, you will figure it out. So, examples. This one, I just did a Google search because again, I didn't really know where to start. So I found this tutorial by Courtney Walters Designs, and this is called the Filsa sweater. Her tutorial, we'll link to this from the meeting. Fabulous. Her tutorial walks you through every step from the cast on to all of it. And she also has a written pattern on Ravelry that does cost. So I did buy the pattern just because I wanted to make sure I understood what was happening, but her video actually goes through the whole thing. So this is a top-down pullover, DK weight, so it's tiny little. And then I'll show you sort of how the progress went. You can kind of see this. So you knit the yoke part first, and then, so I started basically up here at the top, and then you knit the raglan increases. So that's basically these diagonal lines that you're gonna increase so that you have the little arm pieces here, right? So that's where all those little raglan pieces are at the top of the shoulder. And then for this one, once you get to the round that has the sleeves, you knit like the first part, and then you put the sleeves on scrap yarn, and then you knit the back part, and then put the other sleeve, and then you just keep knitting in the round, the body. And then you come back and you pick up those sleeves, the stitches that were on the scrap yarn, and then you can knit the sleeve in the round. I haven't gotten that far yet. I've just gotten to pick up the actual stitches from this side of it. But this one goes pretty fast. It's really cute. It's got a little lace pattern here at the bottom, which is really sweet. But the tutorial is really, really good. She does a really nice job with the tutorial. So here's that's my progress on this. It's my first baby sweater that I've ever done. So thank you. I like this pattern a lot. It's pretty quick. So this one is my second one that I'm working on. This one is also top down, but it's a cardigan. and it's worsted weight, so it's a little bit bigger. And we knit it, you knit flat for several rows, and then you work the sleeves, and then you come back and knit the rest of the body flat. So we'll show you what that kind of looks like. So, got this, I'm gonna pull this extra yarn out so I can have it. So at the top, you're basically knitting back and forth flat, and I forgot to take a picture of it when I got to that part. I was so excited to get to the next part, I forgot to take a picture. But essentially, when you're looking down at it from the top, you're gonna see this part here. So you're basically knitting, again, it's flat, so it's back and forth. So you're not knitting the complete circle, you're just kind of knitting back and forth and back and forth. And then as you're doing that, you're doing the raglan increases as well for the arm stitches. So that's what this picture, I should not have chosen dark blue yarn. I thought, well, I'm gonna make a sweater for a boy, I've got dark blue yarn. No, not a good idea. So basically this section of the, if you're looking at it from the top, you know, section A is here, then you've got B and C, D and E. And for the arms, you're gonna connect these two dots. So when you have this circle, you're gonna pull these two sections together and that becomes your arm. And for this pattern, you do work the arm before you get to the body. So that was a little complicated for me just because I did double points when I got to in the round. Probably should have done magic loop because they were kind of fiddly and bumping into each other. But it actually worked pretty good. So that's the first thing. I would have chosen a different cast off for the sleeve. It's not very stretchy. I should have done a different cast off for the sleeve. It doesn't specify in the pattern what to use. And it does have buttonholes, and I messed those up. So I have to go back and fix the buttonholes.
Babies don't complain.
Right. Right, I just miscounted my garter rows, and so my garter ridges. So that's where I am right now. I've got the two sleeves there. And then I'll go back and pick up, well, I've been knitting on the body, so I'm gonna keep going back and forth there. So I have the rest of the body. And that's pretty much it from a construction perspective. Do you want to talk about anything else, May, from a construction perspective, or then we can talk about the knit along?
Probably just the knit along. You want to pick up the sweaters?
Sure.
You don't have, do you have your Lazy Daisy?
No, I don't have any. So. I'll hold it. You can talk and I'll hold it.
I don't like this. This is basically the 5-hour baby sweater. This person said she actually timed it to 5 hours. So it's possible, but don't count on it. The difference between these two is that this one has holes in the collar, in the yoke. That's how you increase. It's just by doing a yarn over without any decrease. This one has a knit front and back in it, so you have no holes. Otherwise, they're basically the same. They have the same ridges. The other difference is this one is size 10 needle, this is size 8 needle. If I were to do it again, I think I'd go with a 9. They're both worsted weight, but there's a difference in the weight of the yarn. So that's one thing you can do. If you want to do these, one of these two, or the Lazy Daisy, do a swatch so that you know what it's going to feel like. This is a nice warm sweater. That one's kind of like maybe a summer afternoon. It's not going to have much warmth in it. So that's what you want to know, and how it's going to feel to you is the important part. If you know the baby you're going to give it to, you have to worry about size, so the gauge is more important. This is not going to fit the same baby that does.
Well, it will maybe like 6 months later. You grow into it.
But if you only make one. Yeah. So that's the only difference. Now with mine, I put the buttonholes on both sides. Then if I'm giving it to somebody who knows what they're doing, they can switch the buttons if they want to, but otherwise, I know exactly where to put the button on one side because I just put it over the hole. And if you want to be really fancy, you can just put 2 buttons together and put both buttonholes over it with a little space in between.
Okay.
And
I'm sorry, May, explain that one more time about the buttonholes.
I put a buttonhole on both sides of the sweater.
Okay.
That way, when I go to put the buttons on, I just pick one side and put it over the buttonhole, closing up the buttonhole. Or you can get two buttons and sew them together with the shank in between, and then put it through both buttonholes. And then it buttons both ways. And somebody else was saying they had one, what they did was, what was that?
Sue doesn't get it yet.
Let me show you what maybe she's talking about. So on this one, yeah, I'll show you. So on this one, what you do at the beginning of the row is you knit two together, or knit one, knit two together, yarn over, and you make your hole, right? So then at the other side, do the same thing on this side.
It's the two button with the shank going through two buttons.
Oh, that part of it.
Yeah, that's the part. You put these two together, the two buttonholes, and you simply put one button back and one stays in the front. So you're buttoning into the sweater, so there's a button on the inside and on the outside. The other one I just heard of was,
Assembly come loose out and maybe be a choking hazard? Yeah.
you're gonna sew it together very well. And I don't think the baby in this age is going to get the button out. You're gonna have a big enough button to stay in the buttonhole. The other one is just put a snap on and put a snap on the back of, on both sides, or just put a button on the front. So it just looks like you got a button, but it snaps. Then you don't have to do any buttonholes. And for these, I knew what these were for. They were going to end up as a donation, so they get one button each. To heck with buttoning all the way down.
So, is there a way to, like, if I was gonna put buttonholes, to make a button out of yarn? Because I've been told not to put buttons on the sweaters because, little babies fiddle and pull, and if it were to come off, it's a choking hazard. Do you know a way to?
I've never known a baby to be able to take one off. Number one, they're not going to wear it that often.
Got it, okay.
The smaller they are, the less they can use their fingers.
Got it, okay.
Making it out of yarn, they can pull that off.
Yeah.
And then they swallow the yarn. I'm not sure that would be any better. I have seen them where you do it around, it's not a washer, it's like a smooth marker.
A ring, yeah.
A ring, where you just crochet around it.
Okay.
But you've got the ring in there.
Right, yeah.
So I don't think it's a problem, but this is up near the neck.
Yeah, okay.
Small babies are not going to be playing there. They're going to be looking at their hands out here. As they get older, I don't think they're going to be, some of these are like 18 months. 18 months aren't going to be doing that.
Thank you for explaining.
Yeah.
May I, in putting Christmas decorations away, I found the box of my baby sweaters. All done in wool, washed by hand, I don't know how many times. But all of the sweaters until I was about 4 had a tie.
They don't like ties anymore. They are a choking hazard if they get tightened too much. If they're in booties, the babies can pull them out after a certain while and they can choke on them. So if you talk to anybody who deals with babies and are giving things to babies, they do not want a tie. It's just like you no longer put a blanket and a pillow in with a newborn. So, yeah, these are some that have been through the ringer. These were my daughter who just turned 40. And they are, this one happens to be pieces. It looks like a raglan, but there's a seam. So the thing is, I don't care what you do, very plain. Add some garter stitch, add a pattern, add the lace, add cables. Once you get the top done in one of these plain ones, what you do on the body and the sleeves is up to you. So you can do whatever you want when you get down there. What we're going to worry about is just getting something simple done. And my suggestion is, don't plan to do anything special with this one. We're gonna give you a month to get down to the dividing between the arms and the body. Then a month to either do the body or the sleeves, and then you'll finish it after that to bring back the third month. So we'll work on it February and March. April, you should have it done.
I recommend the Mariana Mel pattern. Her patterns are they're very easy to follow.
So are the 5-hour baby sweaters.
Good.
They are really easy to follow. The only explanation I will give you is when you start out, we're going to talk about what is an increase, because there are 3 different ways to increase in most of these sweaters. So you need to know what they're saying because it makes a difference in what comes out.
Yeah, that's a really good point. The which one did I do? I lost it. This one. This one, the increases, they were make one right and make one left on either side, and it was actually kind of difficult with this tiny little yarn to do the make ones in this particular pattern. And in this pattern, the increases are just knit front and back, which was way, way, way easier. It probably would have worked fine for this one too. You can't really tell the difference, I think. You know, you have the leaning in and out. But to me, I don't think anybody's really going to notice unless you're an avid knitter. The difference I probably would do knit in front and back if I do this pattern again, because it's really hard to do the make one.
The biggest difference to explain is that if you do knit front and back, that quote uses a stitch. So if it says knit one, knit front and back, you're working 2 stitches on the needle. If you're going to do a make one, you have a knit one, you're going to make one. You're not using that second stitch. So if you substitute make one for a knit front and back, you have to change your numbers. You'll have to knit 2, then make 1, instead of just 1. If you're doing a yarn over as an increase, you have to be sure that you're doing it in the right spot, because you don't want to do every other stitch if you're supposed to be doing a knit front and back. So we will go into that the first time before you get things. The first thing we'll do, we'll spend 5 minutes at least reading through your pattern. So if you do that before you come, then we can answer questions. Any other questions?
Does anybody who brought a sweater up here want to come and kind of present their sweater and talk about what construction it is, or do you want us to do that, or nobody wants to volunteer? Okay, go ahead.
Mine are rolled top down. This is the flax, which is a free pattern by Tin Can Knits. And they have a garter ridge down the sleeve, but I made braided cables instead. I just thought that was a little bit fancier for my grandson, who's a little bit older. And this is also a Tin Can Knits pattern called Campfire. But their pattern shows, this is color work in the middle, and I wanted to use this variegated yarn, so I just made it like an engineered stripe. And it has a shawl collar, and they did a very good explanation of how to do it, and it lays flat all the time. And I like Tin Can Knit patterns because they start at the baby size and go up to like men's 4X. So when you do buy one of their patterns, you can use it forever for anybody. They're really unisex. So.
I brought a bunch of weird constructions, because that's what I thought. I thought we were doing weird construction today. This is called lemon drop. It's bottom up. You start at the bottom. You go back and forth till you get to the cable. Then you join it in the round. You make the front cable and then the back cable. And then you separate it back out, front and back, and then make separate sleeves. I did make these flat. And then you seam the sleeves, and then you just join the sleeves at the end. So, but awful fun. I thought these were cute. And then there's a little, also cable on the sleeve. That's a different construction. So this one's called Nascent, and it's pretty worn out because I wear it a lot. But it's basically a circle. So you start at the back collar of the back neck, and you go in both directions till you get to a certain point, and then you pick it up, and you're basically just making a circle with sleeves. So it comes all the way around on both sides, and then you kind of turn a corner down here, right here, you can kind of see, you kind of turn a corner, and then you get to the bottom, the middle of the bottom, and you connect it together in the middle bottom, and then you pick up the sleeves and do the sleeves. You know, it's just, but I've worn this a lot, that's just why it's really faded. But fun to do. I ended up, I do make mistakes on my sweaters. I ended up with a couple of extra stitches on either side when I was getting to the end to put it together. So I put it together once, put it together twice, just could not figure it out. So I've had this sweater done for about 10 years, and you can still see I have some string. Because I think at some point I'm going to go fix it, but I don't know when that's going to be.
You have a question?
Oh.
What's the name of the sweater that you're wearing?
This is Lemon Drop.
Lemon Drop.
This one's called Nascent, N-A-S-C-E-N-T.
How do you put it on? Can you just put it over your head?
What?
The lemon
This
drop?
one? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay,
It's,
put it
yeah,
over.
it's a pullover.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no other way to get it unless I'm this one is called, they were talking about the bottom-ups, the botanical yoke pullover. Also a bottom-up, and you do bottom-up on the body, and then bottom-up on the sleeves. So you have, when you're getting ready to put it all together, you have 3 twos. So you do one row where you put together the sleeves to the body, to the sleeve, to the back of the body. And then come up and do the cabling, and the cabling is really nice because the decreases are kind of tucked into the cables, so you don't really see them. So you have a whole lot of sweater down here, and then it comes up with the yoke. So. This one's called Botanical Yoke Polo. Oh, this was a fun one that I did. This one,
only 30, right?
what? Yeah, I do like to make sweaters. This one is really interesting. This is called Recipe for a Rustic Jacket. And you start with this cable. So you pick a cable, and then you work it down, and then you work it up. And there's no pattern, so it's pretty much, for me, it was a lot of trial by error. But in fact, I started it, and so you do the cable, pick up your stitches, and you work down. And when I worked down, I was like, oh, does not fit. So I made the down my top so that when I went back to my down, I could make it wider. So, which I needed to do. Yeah, and then you make it up, and you just kind of have to figure it out on your own. There's not this pattern, which really isn't a pattern. It doesn't give you a whole lot, so you have to kind of figure stuff out. So, I don't know. It's just called, it's on Ravelry. Recipe for a Rustic Jacket. Oh, is it on? Recipe. I think I have it by Mona Nick Leoid. So
Doesn't sound American.
So I decided to pick up the cap of the sleeves. I learned German short rows to make the sleeve, and then I went down, and then I made another cable at the bottom. I just went really crazy with this one. Kept the live sleeves on this sleeve, and then just figured out a way to attach this, which was already done and closed, onto the sleeves. So it was interesting. And then I had to add a big button band because I didn't have enough yarn to make another part of the cable, another repeat of the cable. So. And then, my last one, so many of you have seen this one, but I like this. This is the one I made in pieces. This is the pieces one. We were trying to figure out how you do more than 5 pieces. We really can't. Front, back, 2 sleeves, and then, you pick up stitches for the collar. This one is
5
folded
pieces is a
down.
cardigan. There's two fronts,
Oh.
back and 2 sleeves.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah.
What's the name of that one, please?
This one doesn't really have a name. It's,
Gotcha.
it's a kit that I bought from Ireland.
Okay.
So, but it's called the McCarthy clan sweater, but it's not real. So this is sewn, and it's not that bad to sew. You can really tell where the seams are. It's not that big of a deal. It's just sew, but it's all sewn together. You can see the seam there. But anyway. I like sweaters. Great.
This is several years old. It's the Amy cardigan on Ravelry, and it was knit in the round, technically. You do the top half of the back first, and you cast on from the shoulders, and you knit down to just below the armholes. And then you put that on safety, and then you pick up stitches at the shoulders again, and you knit down to below the armholes for the front. You connect it all, and then you finish knitting back and forth flat. So it was a really interesting way to go about it. And then when you hit the bottom, that's when you would have gone through and done the sleeves. So you did the V-neck before the sleeves on that one. And then you picked up for the sleeves and then knit down. I wound up running out of yarn because the thing, it was only supposed to be like t-shirt length sleeves. And when I bought it, I was like, oh yeah, this has, you know, it says it's gonna do this. I already bought more. I wound up needing an extra 1.5 skeins to complete the full length sleeves. So if anybody can spot the incorrect dye lot, I'll give you $5. I think I managed to match it fairly well. But yeah, this took like 3 months. So, yeah, it was fun.
May, did you want to talk about any one of these? There was one that had, is this the one that has the set? This really just keeps you from having a seam right on the shoulder. This one you start, this is all at the bottom. You start the sleeve here and you come up. And then when you get up here, you just keep going. And then you seam on either side with the front and the back before you pick up for the neckline. And it just gives you a smoother shoulder. And this no longer fits. It was my husband's when we were in college. So, and I just, there is a little different in the shaping back here, because it keeps going a little farther than it does on the front. This is just straight.
That was your boyfriend's sweater?
Yeah, Christmas before we got engaged.
That's dangerous.
No, I think we were engaged, but before we got married. And I measured him with a piece of yarn or string or something. I must have stretched it too much because I got it too small. So I have a matching one. Because at that time, my mother was buying the yarn. So, but this was the first one for him. Just to show you what typical, the other one too. This is the typical, the set-in sleeves, pick up for the neckline. Now, this is not the one I made, the first one I made got a stain on it, so I made it again. The first one I made in 7th grade. And it was a 4-H project, and I learned a lot because I didn't know how to catch floats when I made it. So the judge said, hey, you need to learn to do this. So there were a lot, and I also learned I don't care for single stitches like this because they come loose.
No, they look good though.
So, and then this is the same as all of the baby sweaters over there. You start at the neckline. The design adds the extra stitches on your way down, so you have to pay attention to those all in the yarn. And then you come down, and I can't remember what you did first. I think you did the body and went back to the sleeves. But this was like size 10, 11 needle, so it's nice and loose. I made it on the airplane from here to England. Nice big needles, makes it easy. So that's it. It's a pattern, I think it was called the 2 or 3 skein sweater from a 1950s pattern book by Coates and Clark. And I have all kinds of them, but I cannot find the ones I want.
All right, well, I think what I've learned from just researching sweater construction is there are about a million ways you can put a sweater together. And I think ultimately it comes down to what you like to do, what's easy for you, what's fast for you. If you have a favorite sweater that you knit over and over again, But I'm definitely gonna try more. I don't know if I'll ever knit one for myself, but I'll probably try more baby sweaters and little children sweaters. It was actually fun. It went pretty fast. I would say I like this method better. I think putting the sleeves and then coming back and getting them. This one was a little tricky to try to do the sleeves and then come back and pick up the rest of the body. So I think this is a construction method I like better. Any questions from anybody? Well, hopefully you guys learned something new today or found some new patterns. So thank you.